With the final pick of the NFL draft, Kelly had several off-the-field issues in college, including being dismissed from Clemson after one season. In 2015, he had a disorderly conduct charge, and last October he was involved in a brawl. He's the nephew of Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly, who told John Elway he was a, quote, good kid. Elway talks about his decision to draft Kelly. Let's take a listen.
I called his uncle, and he said he's a good kid. I said, okay. Well, that's all I need. Jim, I trust Jim with that. But, I think that obviously there's been some history there. But we felt comfortable that, Chad understands, what he's been through and is ready to take this step and realizes, the step that he's taken, it's got to be it's different than it was when he was in college. And so, we're full of confidence that Chad's going to be able to come up here and understand the situation that he's in.
Joel Klatt is still with us, but Shannon, will start with you. Is Kelly worth the risk?
There's very little risk when you're selected in the spot known as Mr. Irrelevant. He tore his ACL, I think about 8 games into the season. Didn't play anymore. Had wrist surgery after his pro day. So right now they're saying he's not going to be able to throw the football until July. So all things being equal, there's a great chance he probably ends up on the injured reserve. But here's the problem that I have. Now, here's Chad Kelly. He got suspended at Clemson.
He got kicked off the team. Okay, all right.
He got benched in the spring game.
Yep.
He threatened to go play lacrosse, and Dabo says, nah, I don't need this I don't need this around me. He gets into a bar fight. He threatens to shoot the bar up. Comes back, I think the term he used was spray.
With an AK-47.
Yeah, he was going to spray the building up. Allegedly, he punched the bouncer.
Mm-hmm.
Then, this year, in college, as a senior, goes to his brother's high school football game, and a brawl breaks out.
Mm-hmm.
And John says, and I know John Elway very well, I know Jim Kelly, calls his uncle, he's a good kid. Think about the term they used, kid. As a senior in college, Garrett Bowles, we mentioned the Broncos selected him, the tackle out of Utah, had what did they use, Skip? What was the word they used? Kid.
As a teenager. Yeah.
Kid. They used the word kid. But when they describe Joe Mixon, and again, the disclaimer is, I'm not condoning what Joe Mixon did. We understand it was an abomination. It's terrible, that one decision. But I'm saying the terms that they use, Joe Mixon that just turned 18, by the letter of the law, he is a what? A kid. Chad Kelly's in his 20s. Goes to a high school football game and a brawl breaks out. He's a kid. Garrett Bowles, he's a kid. I wish somebody could have called Joe Mixon's uncle and had him vouch for him, say he's a good kid. But that's not what they get. That's all I'm saying.
But Garrett Bowles' situations took place when he was a teenager. He got kicked out of 5 high schools. His father kicked him out of the house.
So what was Joe Mixon? Teenager.
Barely turned 18 when this took place. Now Garrett Bowles is 25 years of age. So he went on a Mormon mission and took a while to come up the ladder and come out of what he was.
All I'm saying is when the script is written, when Joe Mixon is 24, 25, hopefully he gets as favorable outcome as Garrett Bowles.
Got it. Go ahead.
I mean, first, this is the most relevant Mr. Irrelevant in my lifetime, certainly, ever in the NFL draft. And this is what's so interesting. While I really hope that Joe Mixon can go to Cincinnati and turn a negative into a positive, like you were talking about earlier. And that's my hope for Chad Kelly and Garrett Bowles. The one thing that I did touch on with that in that Mixon conversation is the place and the fit and the structure. And that's why a place like Denver, it doesn't worry me for a player and a personality like Chad Kelly, because under John Elway, 1, you realize there's not going to be any tolerance, and 2, there's very little risk because of the 7th round selection versus the 2nd round selection of Joe Mixon.
The money alone.
So the money alone is it's okay, beyond IR. There's any number of things that they can do with Chad Kelly. Now, when you look at him on the field, he did everything that Deshaun Watson did to Alabama, and at times more. So this is a guy that has the swagger and confidence that he can play the position. And for John Elway, that means something. So this was not just a favor to Jim Kelly.
Oh, no.
Did he call Jim Kelly in order to try to get some background on his character? Yes, absolutely, which he should have done.
What do you think Jim was going to say?
To your point earlier, he's not going to say, hey, my nephew's a real knucklehead. Don't select him.
Right.
The place, though, is going to allow Chad the opportunity to find his footing and not be the story as opposed to Cincinnati with Joe Mixon. Fair or not. And listen, your points are very well taken. There's no doubt about it. But here's two players now with these checkered past, questionable past, Chad Kelly and Garrett Bowles, and yet everyone in Denver, and around the media has said, like, well, it's fine for Denver because of John Elway, and they were kids when this happened. So there's certainly a double standard going on. But on the field, with the swagger and confidence that he plays with, I think that this could actually work out very well for Denver, in particular with a roster that's very loaded on the defensive side.
Agreed.